us as we continue our mission of celebrating and promoting Jewish history, life, and culture, and their positive and far-reaching impact on the world. Enjoy the following presentation, and if you start to kvel, visit yilovejewish.org to support our cause. Thank you.
This is Lot's wife at Sodom. They were fleeing Sodom, actually. He and his two daughters and his wife. Lot and his two daughters and his wife fleeing Sodom. They were told, don't look back and see the destruction of Sodom. This is very timely right now, too. But she looked back and turned into a pillar of salt, which was very close to the Dead Sea. It actually happened, and there's actually a memorial there, a statue that looks like Lot's wife looking back. What's interesting about this piece, the first one was commissioned by the leader of the moral majority from Lynchburg, Virginia, Jerry Falwell. He said, I want you to inscribe it on the back. Don't look back, Mavis. That was his wife's name. But I told you I used to meet a lot of interesting people. They'd come to the King David, and at the King David, they'd send them over to my gallery. They said if they were Christians like Jim Baker and Jerry Falwell, they said, it's Yaakov's ministry. You have to go see Yaakov's ministry and see his biblical sculptures. And they would come to me. And Jerry Falwell, who at the time was interesting, being the head of the moral majority, and he's traveling with a bodyguard who was a black Ugandan who was Idi Amin's bodyguard. And Jerry Falwell, the leader of the moral majority, was telling me, he says, he can put his hand in and pull your heart out. That was interesting. I had dinners with Jerry Falwell. Jim Baker became a very good friend of mine. And he and Tammy used to stay in the presidential suite at the King David Hotel. And they tried to buy Jerusalem and bring it back to North Carolina. They had a place called Heritage USA. And they were offering Teddy Kollek, the mayor of Jerusalem, money they want to bring back Golgotha and all these religious sites. They want to bring it back to put it in their Heritage USA. But they had a big gift shop called Tammy's something or other, named after Tammy Baker. And they used to buy my sculptures and biblical sculptures and sell them there. Adam and Eve, it's a tree of knowledge. This is actually a menorah, a Hanukkah menorah. You have 9 branches. But it's the same Adam and Eve that I have in bronze outside. It's Eve offering Adam the apple, which I still use that theme quite often. I just did this painting recently next to this, where because he took a bite of the apple, they're being expelled from the Garden of Eden. That's what that's about. Here we have the story of Boaz and Ruth, how they met on the threshing room floor. This is Naomi had a kinsman. Her husband's a mighty man of wealth of the family of the Amalekites, and his name was Boaz. That's Boaz, and that's Ruth. This is the story of Samson bringing down the temple. on the Philistines. He killed more Philistines in his death than in his life. Here you have the story of Moses watching as the Ten Commandments were being carved by the finger of God into the side of Mount Sinai. And the Philistines finally caught him. They blinded him. As his hair grew back and he regained his strength, they were going to just ridicule him, and they chained him to the pillars of the temple of Gaza. And he brought down the temple on the Philistines, and he killed thousands of Philistines who had come to watch him being really ridiculed. And that's what I meant by he killed more Philistines in his death than in his life. He was the enemy of the Philistines. He killed them. There are so many stories about how he killed them with the jawbone of an ass. This is the story of Samson and Delilah. And Delilah, I was just talking before about Samson being caught by the Philistines. It was Delilah who got him drunk with wine, and she cut off his hair, which was his strength, was in the length of his hair, and she turned him over to the Philistine soldier, and that's how they caught him. It was Delilah. But this is the scene where she got him drunk and she's cutting off Samson's hair. These are sculptures that I made in Israel and Jerusalem that I've been collecting through the years. I keep one for myself, an artist proof. I have to have an edition of so many, but I make one for myself, an artist proof. And that's what I have here in the gallery. These are all artist proofs. Here you have the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Another story of faith. They threw him into the lion's den. Prophet Daniel. I made this also in Jerusalem, has a plaque on it. I made it in probably 1979. And it was originally commissioned by a man by the name of Dan Abraham, who said, I want you to make this for Danny Horowitz. And Danny Horowitz happened to be my cousin, my mother's sister's son. And I said, why are you making an expensive commission for my cousin Danny back in America? And he says, well, he made me a millionaire. I says, my little cousin Danny was a stock boy in Revco Discount Drugstore when I left Cleveland. How did he make you a millionaire? He said, I went to him. I told him, I said, I'm manufacturing vitamin C pills, and I want to sell it to Revco. And he said, can you make it with Revco's name on the label? And he said, yes. He says, so my first order was for like $2 million, vitamin C pills. He made me a millionaire. And you got Isaac blessing Jacob. Another one of my favorite stories is he actually stole the birthright from his brother Esau. He wrapped himself up in furs because his father was blind, and he disguised himself as his brother who worked with the sheep. So he wrapped himself up with furs so he would smell to his father like his brother, and he stole the birthright, and Esau chased him and chased him into, well, that's the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel when he was running away from his brother, and he fell asleep on the ground and dreamt of Jacob's dream of angels, a ladder of angels ascending and descending from heaven. But this is what started that, when he stole the birthright and then ran away from his brother who was trying to kill him.
Who's the woman?
And the woman is Rachel. This is the story of Moses at the burning bush. This is when God spoke to him. God spoke to Moses saying that you are standing on holy ground. And he had to take off his shoes. You have to see this up close because I've got his shoes, his sandals, that he had to take them off. He was standing on holy ground. And God was speaking to him. And he saw this bush on fire and God's voice coming out of it.
bush was not consumed.
Right. This is a story that we just talked about before, but this is in a smaller version of Abraham about to sacrifice his son Isaac, when the angel brings him the ram and says, God speaks, sacrifice the ram, and said it through the angel. That's my version of the story. The nameplate on it, Yaacov, Jerusalem, Israel.